After I die, I would rather have people wonder why I don't have a monument than why I do have one. Those were the words of Cato the Elder. And that's deep. And he probably had a point. I mean, monuments are amazing. They're nice to look at, they're a good way to fill up a square a little, and they're good ways for remembering and honoring people. But the last part is difficult when you don't know who the person was or what they did to deserve a monument in the first place. Now, one form of a monument can be a statue, so let's today look at one statue and see if we can figure out who the person was, what they did, and how we know that. Now, this is a statue. It's big, it stands at the middle of a square, and it has inscriptions in Latin. So that must mean this guy was pretty important. Now, his name was Godefridus Henschenius, or as his friends like to call him, Gottfried Hensen. And Gottfried was pretty famous, right? He had to be. He has a statue at the middle of a square, and the square is also named after him. And the square lies at the end of a street, and the street is also named after him. But why? Who was Henschenius? Henschenius was a hagiograph. That's someone who writes biographies for saints. Wait, saints? Are those the guys who, after they've been decapitated, pick up their own head and walk to the place where they want to be buried? That's not a biography. That can't happen. What? Harry Potter is a biography too, then? If you thought like this, probably you have more in common with Henschenius than you would think. Because Henschenius was a pretty clever guy. Henschenius loved three things: traveling, reading, and writing. And that's a good thing because Heribert Rosweide was just thinking about writing a book. A big book full of stories of the lives of saints, the way they truly happened, without all the unexplainable miracles. Rosweide actually never worked on this. He died before the work on the book could start, but Jean Bollard inherited his project and he could use Henschenius' help. And the name of the book, or actually the collection of books, was the Acta Sanctorum. Now, this writing and researching actually went pretty well. In fact, it went so well that the Pope, Alexander VII, was impressed and invited them both to come to Rome to continue the research there with full access to all the libraries in Rome. That was huge. That's the best thing that can happen to you if you're a priest in the 17th century. Unfortunately, Bollard was too old and sick to undertake such a journey, but Daniel von Papenbroek accompanied Hensenius in his stead. So they went to Rome. And in those times, you couldn't hop on a plane and stand next to the Pope a couple of hours later. No, they had to go there by foot. From Antwerp to Rome, 2,000 kilometers walking. But once they were there, they had everything they could want, mainly books, lots and lots of books. While they were there, they spent a long time writing. The journey there, doing the research, and the journey back to Antwerp took around 2.5 years. And once they returned to Antwerp, Hensenius stayed there and kept writing and reading and traveling and lived happily ever after. Now, Hensenius wasn't just important because of how well or how much he wrote. You see, the Acta Sanctorum was a really important and special book. And it's mainly because of the way they did the research. And that's because Hensenius and his colleagues believed that when you do research, you have to found your research on sources. People who read your research have to be able to know what you based your writing on. And that was for the time really progressive. And it's something we still use today, and we really value that. So maybe it's a good thing he has a statue. He was an interesting man and he was progressive. And it may be a good reminder and an inspiration to tell people to stay curious and keep asking questions. But that brings us to the question of how? How do I know this? How is anyone supposed to know this by walking past the statue? There's nothing there to hint who this person was or what he did, so how do we know this? Nowadays, websites like Google and Wikipedia are our best friends. And you can find a lot there, but not everything there is to know can be found on the internet. And the gaps they leave behind can often be filled up by archives. Now, archives are amazing, and I will do a video in the future just about archives and what they do and why they're important. But for today, I just want to say that if you're doing research and you can't find something on the internet, go hit up your local archive and show them some love. I actually used the local archive of Venray for the purposes of this video. They're called Roynet, and they really helped me a lot. So thank you for the work you do there, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.